Okay, so the second half of this book is, so I think personally is a lot better than the first half. I mean, I guess that's the basis for most books, whatever. I actually read this book in high school, and it was like the only required reading that I enjoyed. So it was kind of nice to reread it and get to re-experience it with like more background information. But to start it off, I have notes, which is why I'm looking down. So to start this off, I just want to say basically what I said in high school when we read this. I think TK got what was coming for him. He was abusive and he was manipulative, and I just think he was overall like a bad character, like as a person. Like he was a necessary character for the progression of the novel, but as a person, he was like a horrible person. He treated her like trash, even though he was unfaithful, and he was the one making most of the mistakes, if not all, and like he would take it all out on Janie, which is just like manipulative behavior. Do I think he really loved her? No. You don't cause that much damage to someone and still love them. Like you can't be that manipulative and that unfaithful and that abusive, and then you can't just at the end of the day be like, oh, it was out of love, I still love her, like it's okay. Like he stole from her, treated her horribly, and like, okay, something I get a lot when I say that is it was a different time, and living back then, this was normal. But you know what? Like at the same time, it doesn't change my thoughts on the relationship. I don't care what the time is. It's abusive, it's manipulative, and the time period doesn't really impact my thoughts on that too much. Because like, yeah, it was a different time, but it wasn't like that long ago. And I think there were definitely better relationships out there than someone who would like beat her daily. So that's just not a good argument in my case. I don't know. I just don't think a woman has to be torn down daily and abused in order to shape her own life. Like, because I saw that like one of the biggest things like in defense of tea cake, which I get in the book is like necessary, but is the fact that, oh, he helped forward her life and forward her independent thinking. If tea cake didn't do this, this, and this to her, she wouldn't be as strong. And while I get where that's coming from, I also think it maybe just sped it up a little bit. Like, I think she would have come to the conclusion of her independence and, like, self-worth eventually without the abuse and manipulation. But, yeah, I mean, I can't deny that he didn't help speed up her, like, coming of age and, like, growth and stuff. So, like, I do believe that it helped her, but I don't think it was direct. I don't know. I don't think it had as big of an impact as a lot of people say. Yeah. So, onto the topic of equality. One of the questions Professor Baker put up was like, can men and women be equal? Like, will they ever be equal? And I do believe that men and women can and will be equal. Like, I firmly believe in that. However, I do feel like a lot of people have the wrong idea of what equality is because of the whole feminism movement and stuff. That I definitely believe that like men and women will eventually be equal, or at least they should be treated equally. But that equality isn't that men and women are the same, which is something I see a lot of in like feminist media, is that there are no differences between men and women. They are the same. And that's just not correct. Like, there are obvious physical and mental differences between men and women. I think what makes something like equal, like it's not, oh, there's no differences. You have to recognize the differences. Recognize that men and women have different like brains, and like it's not like a huge mental difference, but there is a difference. and like men and women biologically think and like act differently. So I think in order to have equality, both must be given the same chance at success and like given the same opportunities. I think that's vital. Like you can't, I don't think necessarily just because it's like, I don't think men and women should be given different opportunities. I think both should be given the same opportunities because they both should have the same shot at success. I think both sexes must be treated with equal respect despite our differences. I don't think no one person has dominance over the other purely because of sex. That goes for both men and women. Because I know with like all this like abuse accusations going on, a lot of times men get called out, and like, yeah, I get that, like, I don't have statistics to back this up. I'm just gonna say this out. I think the majority of abusers tend to be men, but that might just be because men don't report as much. Because I know there's that whole Cardi B scandal going on now where, like, apparently she said she drugged and robbed men, which, even though she didn't, like, physically abuse them, I guess drugging someone is definitely manipulation and definitely is not okay. So in order for men and women to have equality, women do need to be held to the same standards as men, to the fact that if they do abuse, they should be given the same sentences and the same harsh treatment. It's not like quirky or she's not standing up for herself because she's being abusive. So yeah, neither sex can have dominance over the other purely because of their sex. This is part of why I like this book so much, is because it brings up a lot of problems within society about like sex and race and religion and gender. It brings up like, you know, women's lives. It talks about like how men are expected to act. And a lot of the issues in this book are prevalent in today's society as much as it was prevalent in society back then. I mean, yeah, we've definitely made huge strides forward, but there are definitely still issues. So I think this book, for a while, will be pretty universal in the fact that it covers such a variety of topics in such a good, like, nice, poetic way. And so, yeah, that's essentially my thoughts on the end of the book. I think rereading it, I'm reminded that, like, it wasn't what I thought the end of the book was going to be like. But at the same time, it's still a good ending. And I think that it should definitely be included with classic American literature. I think Zora Neale Hurston, she put a lot of herself in this book that I think if you do like a little bit of research on her, that's really easy to see. That she had a similar relationship like Janie and Tea Cake had. She was also a pretty recognized advocate for women's rights and like equality. And so, yeah, I just think because of her implementing her own experiences into this book and putting kind of a fictional twist on it, I think it's going to be kind of, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think. Like, this book's going to be taught for a long time just because of how universal the themes are. And I think that shows how good of a writer Zora Neale Hurston was. And yeah, that's all I got.